They thought it was over. After months of brutal trade battles, billions in tariffs, and high-stakes negotiations behind closed doors, both sides believed they had reached a truce. A fragile peace, a pause in the storm. China, especially, had reason to feel relieved. Behind the scenes, officials in Beijing were cautiously optimistic. They had spent years pouring money into their tech sector, trying to break free from American dominance, especially in semiconductors, the lifeblood of modern technology. And for a moment, it looked like the worst of the conflict was behind them. But then everything changed. In 1 week, without warning, Donald Trump turned on China, not once, not twice, but 3 times. 3 devastating blows. 3 calculated strikes that sent shockwaves through Beijing. First came the bombshell announcement. American companies were now banned from selling critical software and aerospace technology to China. Think about that. This wasn't just a slap on the wrist. It was a full-scale attack on China's dream of technological independence. A dream built on billions in investment. A plan to rival Silicon Valley, challenge Boeing, and finally beat the United States at its own game. Now, suddenly, that future was under siege. Second blow, the students. More than 270,000 Chinese students studying in America. Many from middle-class families who had sacrificed everything for their children's future, now faced an uncertain fate. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced that visas would be revoked aggressively. That number, 270,000, wasn't just a statistic. It was a message. You're not welcome here anymore. Third strike? Trump himself. On his personal social media platform, he unleashed another bizarre, rambling post filled with self-praise, distortions, and veiled threats. He claimed he had saved China from economic collapse, the very crisis he had created. No mention of the real reason for his sudden escalation. Retailers warning that prices in America would soon skyrocket and shelves could go empty. No mention of TACO, a major loophole that allowed goods to bypass tariffs. Just a wild, disjointed rant, followed by a chilling accusation. China had broken the deal. But how? He didn't say. Because he couldn't. Because there was no proof. Only suspicion. Only pressure. Only power plays disguised as principle. USTR Jameson Greer later tried to clarify. He pointed to one specific issue: China's new export licensing system for rare earth minerals. These are the invisible building blocks of modern technology, found in smartphones, fighter jets, electric cars. Control rare earths, and you control the future. China had just implemented a new system, not just for the U.S., but for everyone. But Washington saw it differently. To them, this was a violation. Yet when asked earlier if this exact issue had been addressed in the agreement, Greer had said yes. So what happened? Nothing. No action. Just confusion and cynicism. As John Hikawi, president of Stormcrow Capital, put it bluntly, I wouldn't be shocked to find that Mr. Greer is expressing what he hopes will happen versus what has actually been negotiated. Welcome to the chaos of Trump-era diplomacy. Broad principles, vague promises, no details, no clarity, just hope and hubris. And when deals are built on that shaky foundation, misunderstandings don't just happen, they explode. Which brings us to the next layer of betrayal. A court ruling that threatened to unravel everything. The U.S. Court of International Trade had just declared Trump's tariffs illegal. Yes, illegal. A decision that should have sent shockwaves through Washington. But instead, silence. The administration publicly insisted the trade talks were continuing as usual. But behind closed doors, they begged the appeals court to delay the ruling, because enforcing it would weaken their negotiating position. Sworn statements, filed in court documents, buried, ignored, while the world watched, clueless. And in the middle of all this turmoil, Scott Bessent, the U.S. trade negotiator, made a surprising suggestion. The talks were stalled. Solution? A call between Trump and Xi Jinping. Direct intervention. The master dealmaker stepping in. Sounds reasonable until you remember the history. Remember how Trump once falsely claimed that Xi had called him, a claim China immediately denied? Remember how he lies about the content of these calls? Remember how he twists reality to suit his ego? So why suggest a direct conversation now? Why pass the problem back to Trump? Because Besant knows something. He knows the demands being made of China are impossible, unrealistic, atrocious, and he knows the Chinese won't accept them. So he does what any smart negotiator would do. He flatters the boss. He hands the ball back to Trump. Let him explain his fantasy demands to Xi directly. Let him take ownership of the disaster. Because Besant still wants to keep some credibility, some integrity, something to fall back on when this all goes sideways. And it's already going sideways. China isn't stupid. They see the pattern. Export bans, visa cancellations, threats of more tariffs, and now a massive new missile defense system, the Golden Dome project, worth $175 billion. A shield across America's coasts. A move that signals a terrifying shift in military strategy. Because if the U.S. believes it can launch attacks without fear of retaliation, then deterrence collapses. Mutual assured destruction? Gone. And in its place, a dangerous imbalance. One that makes war more thinkable, more possible. And China is watching. Carefully, quietly, but not silently. At the Shangri-La Defense Forum in Singapore, where U.S. and Chinese officials usually meet informally, China made a stunning statement. They didn't show up. No high-level delegation. No handshake diplomacy. Just absence. A cold, calculated signal. We are not happy. Meanwhile, Beijing continues to project itself as a global leader, calling for peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. Sounding noble. Calling for respect for international law. Calling for restraint. But actions tell a different story. China still stands by Russia, still supplies it with drone technology, still turns a blind eye to civilian bombings. And yet, it wants the world to believe it's the moral alternative to Trump's America. Even former WTO head Pascal Lamy is urging Europe and China to unite, to create a new rules-based trading order without the U.S. He says, we should do what China did to us 30 years ago. Welcome to the EU, provided you produce here. A bold vision, a new alliance, a world reshaped. But while diplomats dream, generals prepare. Tensions rise, sanctions fly, missiles hum, and the question looms. Are we heading back into a full-scale tariff war? Or worse, a military confrontation? Neither side wants it. Not yet. But Trump doesn't understand how China sees the world. And misunderstanding in geopolitics is the first step toward catastrophe. Wall Street doesn't want to crash. Retailers don't want empty shelves. Allies don't want chaos. But none of that may matter. Because when power meets pride, when leverage becomes leverage, and when trust is gone, there's no telling how far the fall will be. So what's next? Can the two superpowers pull back from the edge? Or is this the beginning of something much darker? Stay tuned.